that the gusset plates were under-designed. That will change all bridge inspection in the future to go back to the design of the bridge itself, the engineering documents on bridges, and not assume that the bridge was properly designed, but go back and question. All bridge inspection in the future will be changed. And now the finding of probable cause, while certainly the failure of the gusset plate then caused the collapse of the bridge because it's a fracture critical structure, and there are 740 other bridges like this in the country, will also be evaluated in the light of the board's continuing work, which they are expected to include in their final report, on fatigue, corrosion, pigeon droppings that prevented rollers from moving properly. A host of factors contributed to this collapse, plus the weight on the bridge of all the construction material that was totally inappropriate.
Do you think there was negligence there on the part of the state authorities?
I don't think you can call it negligence at this stage. But the week after the bridge collapsed, and I went out to tour the rubble, the NTSB inspector, whom I have known for many 25 years, inspecting aviation accidents, said that's a problem. All of that construction equipment on the bridge shouldn't be there, and it causes an overload on one side of the bridge.
If that's not negligence, how would you describe it?
Negligence is a legal term, and I defer to the county attorney.
Let's get the lawyer. Let's get the lawyer going here.
Well,
should they have been doing better?
The state should not have allowed that equipment on the bridge. There's just no question about it.
But had the gusset plates been properly designed, the board said this failure would have happened, despite the load.
I think that's still an open question. And we'll wait the final documentation of the board, the final substantiate, and then subject that to evaluation and critique.
Council, come back to inspections really quick.
Let me ask Senator Klobuchar.
Okay, well, I'll throw something to both of you. Rosenkirch said that because inspections, even if the state had done everything properly in regards to inspections, that this bridge still would have fallen because of the undersized gusset plates. Do you both of you agree with that assessment?
Well, first, I just want to say that one of the things that we've learned the last 2 days was that this wasn't a bridge over troubled waters. This was a troubled bridge over waters. And it is very good that we've gotten all the facts out about the design defect, but the most important thing, as the chairman said, that's come out of this is we're now going to change the process going forward for these inspections. So the fact that this design was wrong at the beginning, that wasn't included as part of the inspection process, is very troubling. The other thing that's come out of these hearings is that there was an issue with the inspection process, and that they didn't look at the load factor and the effect of the weight, and that should also be included in the inspection process. So one of the things that I'd like to come out of this constructively with is support for our bridge bill, the chairman's bridge bill in the House, and the bridge bill that Senator Boxer and I and Senator Durbin have in the Senate. That is right now, it got through the committee. It is on hold by Senator Inhofe, who's been blocking it from consideration. We will try again if we can next week. And if that fails, we will put it in as part of the highway bill. But what that bill does is it basically says you're going to use the money. When it says it's supposed to be used for maintaining bridges and fixing bridges, you got to use it for that. It may be more fun to go to a ribbon cutting and start a new project, but we've got to maintain these existing bridges in this country, and that's what the bill does.
Why is he blocking it?
Talk to him. The chairman knows he has some concerns that you should allow the states some more leeway, but I really don't think that money should be going to planting flowers on highway medians. It should be going to fixing bridges.
His objection and that of others in the House, although the bill passed with well over 300 votes in the House, 340-some votes in the House, is that it requires a state to certify that all structurally deficient bridges have been addressed under the state's allocation under the bridge formula before they're allowed to shift money out of the bridge account to other purposes. We just say if you have structurally deficient bridges, you can't transfer money out of your bridge account. States over the last 5 years has transferred $4.5 billion out of their bridge accounts to other purposes in their highway programs, and then a bridge collapse where you have a deficient bridge and they're all over the country, and then they wring their hands. Well, we're saying we have these categories. Bridge formula is one of them. Use those funds for structurally deficient bridges before you shift the money out of that account to do something else with it.
Senator, can you speak to the negligence or neglect that the Congressman has? Do you share that?
Again, those are legal standards. Right now, we want to look at this report, and then as the Congressman explained, we're going to have further hearings to ferret out details on the report.
The investigators inferred that these important calculations were not done because they couldn't find the paperwork. Some board members have a problem with that theory. How hard-hitting should this report be in terms of whether or not...
It should be very hard. It should be very clear that there was a design flaw. The gusset plates were under-designed and therefore under-built. Should have been 1 inch instead of 1/2 inch steel. And that's an important lesson for the whole future of bridge inspections, that states and inspection forces must go back to the original documents on the bridge and not just assume they were properly designed from the outset.
Mr. Chairman.
Secondly, this is a fracture critical bridge. In engineering technology, that means if one member fails, the whole bridge fails. Therefore, a higher responsibility on the part of state bridge inspectors to go back to the beginning of the design and engineering of that bridge, and to subsequently conduct a higher level of bridge inspection than for other type bridges.
I wanted to clarify what you're saying about going back to the original design documents. You mean just for the gusset plate portion, or
All bridges.
aspects?
All bridges. All bridges.
All aspects of every bridge.
All bridges.
Well, we still don't know if this was an error of commission or oral issue.
What do you mean?
Regarding these calculations. Were they done wrong, or were they not done at all?
There isn't sufficient documentation yet available to the board to make that determination, whether the original bridge engineers did a bad job, whether the design requirements were wrong to begin with, whether they were right and were designed wrong. There are a number of questions yet that have to be answered.
So should they be coming out with a final report today?
I don't know what their final report's going to be, so we'll see what it is. If they're going to do a final report today, and apparently they are, it ought to include those factors.
You were very critical early on about the process and the fact that they figured gusset plates very early on. In light of how things have turned out, are you still critical of how this whole process worked out?
I think that there should have been a public hearing before coming to a final findings, conclusions, and probable cause. People died on this bridge collapse. This was not a collapse in the dark of night with no human impact. People died. There should have been an opportunity for the public to be heard.
And there have been hearings, public hearings, for much less disastrous tragedies than this one. Here you have 13 people died, an 8-lane highway, 6 blocks from my house that people in my neighborhood drive over every single day. And the idea of a public hearing is to make the public have a platform and a forum so that they can talk about what happened and get their questions answered. And I think it's very unfortunate that wasn't part of this process.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess they're still in session.